So, hi guys, how are we all doing today? Okay, so let's talk about this series that just came out from Netflix, The Polygamist. Dude, um, it's crazy. I could not stop watching, and for once, I'm going to appreciate this. I'm going to appreciate this series because of how it was played. 22 episodes in one season. Just learned that season 2 is coming out on the 20th of June. Somebody said on Threads that let the show hold on because she still needs to go to therapy. Anyway, again, could say thank God it's just a series, but it's actually a reality, in a lot of marriages. And so in this series, we've got Joyce GOMORA and Jonasi GOMORA, who are both married. And then we've got other protagonists in this show who are Essie GOMORA. There's Sarah, an illegitimate child of Jonasi GOMORA. We've got Magesh GOMORA, who's the brother to Jonasi. We've got Mama Grace. We've got Matipa, okay, who was having an affair with Jonasi and eventually became a baby mama and eventually became a wife. And then we've got Lindani, who was a friend to the Gomorrah kids. And we've got Freedom, we've got Lungi, we've got Menzi, and we've got Umpume. Umpume and Menzi Gomorrah are the kids of the Gomorrahs. Anyway, so let's break it down. Joyce. I'm going to repeat what I said. Joyce is the godfather villain we didn't know we needed. And you see, this, the story of the woman scorned, right? That thing is true. Never. Hell hath no fury like a woman who is scorned. Hell has no fury like her. Joyce GOMORA attempted to Jonasi, the first time the first time she tried it, she had a pew pew and she wanted to unalive him, and the pew pew, she couldn't go ahead with it because it fell off her hand and she was shaking. And Jonasi looks at her and says, "You want to kill yourself?" I'm like, the arrogance in this man. Oh my God. The second time she tried it again, she actually, gave him cyanide. And it was discovered that she gave him cyanide. She paid them off and said, listen, she paid the hospital and said, listen, don't say nothing, right? I'm going to keep this on. I'm going to do this myself. Magesh, his brother, told him and said, dude, you are really overestimating the love this woman has for you. As in, he said, no, she's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. It's till death do them apart. And in all of this, we see the children. We see Menzi and we see Mpume, who are suffering. Menzi is going to do worse than his father. Why I'm skipping a lot of these things, because I know that a lot of people have not watched it. I even just told my friend yesterday to go watch it. So I don't want to spill a lot of beans, right? But I will spill beans maybe in another episode, but I'm going to spill beans now. Menzi is going to do what? Wenzi is going to be worse than his dad. And you see, one of the things you quickly notice in this series, which I love, is we see quickly the dynamics of the average African home where this kind of, instability, marital instability exists, where you see the boy who doesn't speak, he's holding it in, he notices all these things, and for him in his mind, this is how it should be, or this is how it is, and this is how it should be. And even though he knows it shouldn't be like that, and what solidifies it for him is that because mom is not telling him anything, he's cued onto it, but mom isn't saying anything. He's not even close enough to mom to be able to say, for mom to be able to pour out her issues to him, but he sees his mom suffering. And so we understand this dynamic whereby you see the men you see men who tell you that our mothers did this, our mothers did that. They did it. It doesn't mean I have to do it, right? And so you see this dynamic, and Menzi is holding it in. He's keeping it in. You see tears in his eyes, they don't fall. You see the anger behind in his face, nothing. And that is exactly what you get. And this is the very, very you know, very original, African dynamic. Now, when we now move to the sister Mpume, Mpume is actually the one who expresses herself. She sees her mom suffering. She hugs her mom. She talks to her mom. Mpume even asks her mom, "Why are you still here? Why do you still want this marriage? It's toxic." She sees it, and Mpume already knows and tells herself, this is not what I want. But Menzi is not doing that. In fact, Menzi is being chastised, right? The father tells him that you're not a man. The father tells him he's a weakling. And why is that? Because he sees Menzi, because Menzi tries the gentleman's approach. Daddy sees the gentleman approaching Menzi and says, "Oh, you're a weakling," right? Because he is getting away with all of his shenanigans. And we ask, how is Jonasi able to get away with the shenanigans? Of course, with the help of his brother, Magesh, and, Essie. Now, one of the things that struck me in this is Essie is the woman you never want to be. And if you, this is, in the beginning, I did feel sorry for her. And at a point, I didn't feel sorry for her, and I went back to feeling sorry for her. And why did I go back to feeling sorry for her? Essie was from the ghetto. She was from the dregs, right? And she enabled. So this happened from when they were young. So Essie enabled Jonasi. She enabled him by helping him cheat with women. She enabled him by covering up for him. She was there. She was a party to this. Mind you, Essie is the reason Jonasi went to the university. Essie is the reason Jonasi was able to go to the university and become the person that he is, right? And so you see this dynamic where Essie has no say. And Jonasi actually marries Joyce and then compensates Essie by buying her a house, and then marries her traditionally and keeps her hidden, keeps their child, Sarah, hidden. Essie is that woman who has nothing and did not see herself above a particular station in life. And so anything she was the underdog. Anything she was told, she did. She just did it. Not that she loved Jonasi, but because she didn't see herself as anything more. And she didn't see herself as anybody who could even get more. And so it was easy for Jonasi to manipulate her and play her like a fiddle and say, listen, I don't need you, but hey, I need you. And so Jonasi would walk in and do whatever he did. He even, gets to have, intimate relations with her. And she will accept. She will do it. Because she did not have that. She had no confidence. Essie was confident in her own way, but she had nothing. She was just a lower class woman. That was Essie. And that same thing translated with Joyce's treatment of Essie. And that's why I said I do feel sorry for Essie, because if Essie had it different, if Essie knew different, if Essie saw herself outside of Soweto, right? And that was the thing, because she lived in Soweto. She never left Soweto. The only difference was that she had an upgraded house. And so if Essie was able to have left Soweto, had been able to tell herself, oh, I could get an education, I could do this, I could do that, probably Essie would have been, would have not accepted Jonasi's, BS for a while, right? And so, this video continues in another part, so you guys stay tuned, right? And so you see this dynamic of a man who is playing everybody according to how he wants, and then let's talk about Matipa. You see that side chick that always thinks that she's the next best thing after sliced bread. I'm really sorry for them, right? Because she was never in the program. She was just an addition. You dare start harassing a man about divorcing his wife. She even went as far as having babies for him. And then what else did they do to you? They just put you, and you joined the queue. I do not feel sorry for Matipa. What was quite interesting, and that's why I said I don't feel sorry for her, but again, it's a show. But what was quite telling was the fact that Matipa actively went after Jonasi. It wasn't like she was already seeing Jonasi's brother. She was already dating Jonasi's brother, right? Not minding the fact that Jonasi's brother had he had to pretend, or for him it seemed like he was having an affair. So probably for Matipa, it felt like, well, no harm, no foul, right? And so she actively went after Jonasi because she wanted a promotion. From wanting a promotion, she became the permanent, sidekick and, F body. And from there, she even went as far as becoming a mom and had babies for him. And so you then realize that, listen, it now strikes you clearly that you were not even the agenda. In fact, you were just joining the bandwagon because Jonasi would have just kept on going on and on and on and on. Matipa played herself. And it took her, it didn't take her long. That was the thing about it. It didn't take her too long to figure it out. And that's why I doff my hat for Joyce. That's not to say that Joyce doesn't have hers. I'm coming to Joyce in a minute. But I doff my hat for Joyce. And I think I realize I understand better. Joyce brought her in so that this shit I'm smelling, let's smell it together. This money you think, this life that you think I have, come, let's experience it together. So it did not take Matipa long to understand and see that, Omo, it's all, it's all grass and that is green, right? On the inside. Outside is way greener than what is happening inside there. It did not take her long to, see that. Now let's come to Joyce. Joyce is the definition of a strong woman. I only wish that Joyce put her strength into other things that wasn't Jonasi. You see, one thing about men is that once you start doing to a man, right, what he does to you, he can't take it. And that was exactly what happened. Because the moment Joyce signed the divorce papers, Jonasi made a complete 360. And I'm like, is he not going to divorce anymore? He made her sign the divorce papers. Joyce did not want to sign the divorce papers. And then boom, they renewed their vows. Joyce signed the divorce paper and Jonasi never left again. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. The definition of what you call toxicity. Man, I was like, what is going on? I thought and I was like, she signed it. She signed the divorce papers. Jonasi did not move. So it was obvious that everything he had been doing, he was just, bullshitting her to, do probably to see if he was going to take the bait. And she did take it. And Jonasi never left again. And so Joyce realized that this guy was going to keep on playing me as long as he was here. And for him, as long as I was the willing participant to his charade, well, that was the perfect way for her to do what she needed to do. But Joyce allowed her children to see her turmoil, her grief, her distress, her depression, and she allowed it. She sat in it. She sat in it for her own stubbornness, yes, but to the detriment of her children. Her daughter was not happy. Her son was suffering. She knew those kids were suffering. The little ones were, exempt because they're little, so they probably did not really understand what was going on. But the grown-up ones, Menzi and Mpume, they were going through it. And she let them sit in it. That is something you don't do, because what you do is you create a generation of damage. And that was what Joyce did. Mpume had to leave. And Joyce still was begging her daughter to stay. And she said, no, I won't stay. Because at a point you see something and you tell yourself, I can't do this anymore. You just be honest and say, I can't do this anymore. Joyce, on that one, she no try. Right? And so we now, like I said, she's the villain that we never knew we needed. So I'm going to stop it there because, like I said, people are watching. Then let's come to Lindani. Lindani is so stupid. Watching her in distress and sorrow over an act of kindness that God did for her by her miscarriage, she had no clue. And she was there crying that she lost the pregnancy. It doesn't end there. Lindani is the friend, not just a very good friend, close friend to Mpume Menzi, for which Menzi was head over heels in love with her. And she knew. And she knew, and she was playing with his emotions. I'm not going to say anything. I say people will watch it so that people will see that Menzi is gonna be Menzi is gonna be dangerous. It's gonna be dangerous. Menzi is gonna be dangerous. He's gonna be worse than his dad. Because explain to me how explain to me how Lindani becomes the person Jonasi depended on when the chips were down. And she did not even bat an eyelid. She did not even look his way. She did not even care. But Jonasi, in his brain, I think he felt like, it was a revenge thing. Felt like it was something he could get away with. Now let's talk about Sarah. Sarah was the child Essie had for Jonasi that was never to be seen, shown, named, or discovered. And Sarah was suffering. Again, let's go back to Essie. Essie was damaged. Essie had no self-respect. She had nothing. She had no respect for herself. And so by virtue of her lack of respect for herself, she allowed her daughter to be in grief. Imagine making your son be a guard for you when other men came around. And Sarah was rebellious. Sarah didn't like what was going on. But Essie worked well to take away her daughter's voice, take away her daughter's position. Essie is that mother that at a point in your life, you will grow to hate. You don't wish to hate her, but you will eventually do that because she had no voice. She had nothing. And that was Sarah's suffering. All Sarah wanted was to belong. You guys, go and watch The Polygamists. Gist Day. I can't wait for season 2. Talk to you guys later. Bye.